Just try to picture this for a second. A wall, a fortress, so huge it literally snakes across mountains and deserts. And we're not talking about something built in a few years or even a few decades. We're talking millennia. That's the Great Wall of China for you. It's an absolute engineering marvel, one of the most ambitious things humanity has ever even attempted. So it makes you wonder, right? How on earth do you even start building something that vast?
You see, the Great Wall is way more than just a pile of stone and earth. It's really a symbol of just pure persistence, a story of entire empires rising and falling, and a monument to human ingenuity. So let's dive in and unpack how this colossal structure was actually built, what it was really for, and why, even today, it just continues to completely capture our imagination.
Okay, to really get a handle on the scale here, I want you to let this number sink in for a moment. 21,000 kilometers. That's not just one straight line, that's the entire system, all its branches and sections combined. To put that into perspective for you, that is more than halfway around the entire planet Earth. I mean, that's just a staggering, mind-blowing feat of human will. All right, so let's jump into our first section here. And the first thing we really need to understand is that the Great Wall, well, it's not what most people picture. It's absolutely not one single continuous wall that was built all at the same time. So let's just bust the biggest myth right off the bat. You know that idea that one single emperor, like the famous Qin Shi Huang, snapped his fingers and built the entire thing? Yeah, it makes for a great story. But the real story is so much more complex. And honestly, it's way more interesting. Here's the truth. The wall's construction actually spanned more than 2,000 years. It all started way back, with different warring states just building their own little defensive walls. Then along comes Emperor Qin Shi Huang, and he's the one who starts connecting and expanding them. But, and this is the key part, those iconic stone and brick sections that you see in all the pictures, most of those were built by the Ming Dynasty way, way later. So you see, it was this one powerful idea of a massive defense, but it was carried out by so many different people across so many centuries. Okay, so if we're talking about a project that spans millennia, that begs the question, right? How in the world did they build something this massive across some of the most challenging landscapes imaginable? Well, this is where the pure engineering genius really starts to shine. These builders were absolute masters of resourcefulness. They had a simple rule: use what you've got. In the flat plains and deserts, where there wasn't a lot of stone, the early walls were made from rammed earth. Simple, effective. But later on, during the Ming Dynasty, when they were building in those dramatic, rugged mountains, that's when they switched to sophisticated, kiln-fired bricks and huge granite blocks. And for those early rammed earth walls, they used this incredibly clever technique called hang-to. So picture this. Workers build a wooden frame, kind of like a mold. They pour in layers of whatever's around, earth, gravel, maybe some wood, and then they just pound it down over and over until it's as hard as rock. Then they just take the frame off, slide it down the line, and do it all over again. So simple, but absolutely brilliant. All right, now for the later Ming walls, the ones made of brick and stone, they had a secret ingredient. And I promise you will never guess what it is. Sticky rice. Seriously, they mix sticky rice porridge into the mortar. It turns out that amylopectin in the rice works as this amazing organic binder, creating a mortar that was ridiculously strong and super water resistant. Who knew? A simple food staple became the key to building a super fortress. And get this quote really drives home just how powerful that sticky rice mortar was. We're talking strong enough to resist earthquakes and even modern bulldozers. Think about that for a second. Modern science confirms it. This stuff helped parts of the walls survive for centuries, through anything nature could throw at it. Its strength is just legendary.
But a project this big wasn't built by magic. So who were the people who actually did the work? Well, the workforce was just enormous, and it came from three main places. You had soldiers, the guys already stationed at the frontier. You had tons of conscripted civilians, basically farmers pulled from their fields. And you had prisoners. We're talking millions upon millions of people, over centuries, whose hands built this wall.
And we have to be honest, the human cost was just immense. There's this really haunting line from an old Han Dynasty poem that just captures the suffering. It says, "Dead men's skeletons prop each other up." The work was brutal, and so many people died from accidents, from sickness, from pure exhaustion. It's no wonder the wall earned the grim nickname, the longest cemetery on Earth.
But look, if you think the Great Wall was just a big, silent fence, you're missing the whole point. This thing wasn't just a passive barrier. It was a smart, active defense system. Think of it less like a wall and more like the nervous system of the empire's northern border. So how did it speak? Through this brilliant system of beacon towers. Check this out. A guard in one tower spots an enemy approaching. By day, he lights a smoky fire. By night, a blazing one. The guards in the next tower down the line see it and they light their signal. And boom. Just like that, the message gets relayed from tower to tower, spreading a warning across hundreds of kilometers at incredible speed.
And it did so much more than just act as a barrier. The top of the wall was basically a highway, letting troops and supplies move super fast. The gates weren't just for defense, they were also customs checkpoints, controlling and taxing trade on big routes like the Silk Road. And at its core, it was a giant, unmistakable line in the sand, a powerful symbol of where the civilized world, in their eyes, ended and the wild lands began.
All right, now anytime you have something this ancient and this epic, you're going to get some legends and myths popping up around it. So, let's have some fun and separate the fact from the fiction.
Okay, let's start with probably the most famous myth of them all, that you can see the Great Wall from space or even the moon with your own eyes. It sounds incredible, right? It's a really romantic idea, but I hate to break it to you, it's just not true.
The reality is, when you're that far away, the wall is actually really narrow, and a lot of it is made from earth and stone that just blends right into the landscape. Astronauts themselves have confirmed it time and time again. You can't see it with the naked eye from orbit. It's one of those myths that just feels like it should be true, but it doesn't hold up.
All right, next up is a much darker legend. You've probably heard this one. The grim story that the workers who died building the wall were just thrown in and buried right inside the structure itself.
Now, while we know the death toll was tragically high, modern archaeology has found zero evidence to back this up. Not a single body has been found inside the wall. The reality is that the workers who died were buried in proper grave sites nearby. So the story is a myth, but the immense human sacrifice was very, very real.
Okay, so we've busted some myths, but here's a fascinating and totally true modern twist to the wall's story. Scientists have recently discovered that a lot of the older, rammed earth parts of the wall are being protected by something called biocrusts. It's basically a thin, living layer of stuff like cyanobacteria, mosses, and lichens.
And get this living armor acts like a natural shield. It binds all the loose earth together and protects these super fragile, ancient sections from being worn away by wind and rain. So, in this really amazing way, nature itself is helping to preserve one of humanity's greatest creations.
So when you really think about it, the Great Wall isn't just one single thing. It's a military defense system, it's an engineering marvel, it's a source of myths and legends, and today, it's a global icon. More than anything, it's just this incredible testament to human ambition, to sacrifice, and to sheer brilliant ingenuity.
The wall has faced down invaders for centuries, but today it faces new threats, right? Things like erosion and climate change. Its long story of endurance is still being written. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? As the guardians of this wonder today, what new kinds of ingenuity will it take to make sure this endless fortress is still standing for another 1,000 years?